Throughout the Marvel Universe, there is one name that strikes fear to those who hear it: Doom. For all who have encountered Victor Von Doom, known as Dr. Doom to his countless foes, have learned to fear his might, genius, and unending desire to dominate everything he encounters. But behind his armored mask, who is Doom? And why is he so feared? To start, he's a scientific genius who has crafted an arsenal of unique weapons, including his mighty armor, which boasts energy blasts and force fields. He's invented his own time machine and commands an army of loyal robots, including his personal Doombots, which can impersonate him at his command. But Doom is also a master of the mystic arts, with power that rivals even Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, a position that Doom once claimed for himself. And he's often used his genius to combine magic and science, creating wonders and horrors that he alone could imagine. And that's not including the resources of Latveria, the Eastern European nation he rules with a literal iron fist. For Doom is practically worshipped by his people, who are willing to fight for their beloved king at a moment's notice. Doom's life is a stream of never-ending plots, schemes, and battles, as his ego and ambition have pitted him against many of Earth's mightiest heroes. To tell Doom's tale, we're going to explore the ongoing rivalries that have shaped Doom's life, making him into the armored despot he is today. Doom's greatest nemesis has to be his old college rival, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, who has battled Doom so many times that it pushed our Fantastic Four recap into feature-length territory. So, we wanted to focus on the numerous other battles that have shaped Doom's life. His lifelong battle against the demon Mephisto, as Doom sought to free his mother's soul from eternal damnation in Mephisto's realm. His longtime battles against heroes like Iron Man and Black Panther, which have led to wars, uneasy alliances, and even occasional bouts of heroism. And Doom's desire for unlimited power, which has driven him to become Emperor Doom, God Emperor Doom, and most recently, Sorcerer Supreme Doom, as he battled the entire world in the One World Under Doom storyline. This is Marvel Recap Dr. Doom, with a special shout out to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe research team and the Marvel Studios story team for their help. Before we get to Doom's mightiest battles, we have to explore Doom's origins and the two great tragedies that shaped his life. Victor Von Doom was born in the Eastern European nation of Latveria. A member of the Romani clan known as the Zephyro, Doom was raised by his loving parents, Werner Von Doom and Cynthia Von Doom. While Werner was renowned for his healing skills, Cynthia was a student of magic, particularly the dark arts. Their mix of scientific and magical knowledge would go on to define Doom, who would become a master of both fields. The tribe faced persecution from their local nobleman, Vladimir Fortunov, known as the Baron of Sabbat. While casting spells one evening, Cynthia was manipulated by a demon into attacking a village that had done great harm to her tribe. As she killed many soldiers, the demon took the life of every child in the village as payment for Cynthia's power. The remaining villagers chased Cynthia into the woods, where she was fatally wounded by a soldier's sword and died. Afterwards, the clan asked Werner and Doom to leave the tribe, but Doom refused, vowing that if the elders forced him out, he would use his mother's skills to exact vengeance on the camp in the future. They relented out of fear, and Werner and Doom stayed with the tribe, where Doom grew closer with his childhood friend, Valeria, the daughter of Werner's close friend, Boris Karela. That's when the Baron's wife became sick, causing him to seek out Werner for his medical aid. When Werner was unable to cure her, the Baron set his men upon the tribe, and Doom and his father were forced to flee into the hills. Trapped in a winter storm, Werner froze to death, with Doom still clutched in his arms. Afterwards, Doom claimed his parents' possessions, which included his father's remedies and a chest of his mother's mystical items. Doom studied all of them, quickly learning the ways of both science and magic. He used his scientific skills to con a nobleman into buying a fake violin, escaping the Baron's soldiers by using a freeze grenade of his own invention. And while he mastered magic very quickly, he used it mainly to try to reach his mother in the underworld, which he failed to do. Soon, Doom had gained a small measure of wealth and was seen as the leader of his clan. His long friendship with Valeria had by now developed into young love, but they began to grow apart as she became uncomfortable with his studies of the dark arts. Doom's invention soon gathered attention from America. The Dean of Science of New York State University offered him a scholarship, as did the U.S. military, who offered him access to top facilities if he would share his inventions with them. Doom accepted both offers, leaving Boris behind to lead the tribe as he flew off to America. Doom began developing technology for the military while attending State University. He soon encountered a young Reed Richards, who he immediately dismissed as his inferior, possibly because of his hat. Doom refused to share a room with Reed, and that seemingly insignificant housing decision would have a major impact on Doom's life. That roommate spot would go to future test pilot Ben Grimm, creating a lifelong friendship that would lead to many of Doom's defeats. Doom soon became obsessed with developing a technology to communicate with other dimensions, as he continued to try to find a way to contact his mother. He also kept up with his military studies, developing advanced robots and a prototype time machine, although he admitted that he was having a problem with his robots believing they were people. As Doom continued to work on his interdimensional chair, Reed spotted a flaw in his calculations, but Doom refused to listen. Activating the chair, Doom found himself in Mephisto's lair, learning that his mother's soul was in his torment. But Reed was right, and the chair exploded. Doom woke up in a military hospital, where he learned that he'd been expelled from the university as his lab assistant had been horribly wounded during the explosion. He soon learned that his face had also been left with a slight scar, only Doom now saw himself as hideous. He vowed that no other eyes must ever gaze upon his face again. He also blamed Richards for the explosion, convinced that he'd sabotaged the device to prove himself the superior mind. Bitter at the smug American military, Doom used his robots to escape the base, destroying all copies of his inventions as he left. In the 2006 series, The Books of Doom, we learned that Doom escaped to Prague, where he was plagued by nightmares of Mephisto and his mother's torment. He found himself being followed by Otto, a mysterious old man who tried to befriend Doom, who spurned his offers of help. Soon Valeria joined him, and they rekindled their romance. But the pair were attacked by KGB agents looking to capture Doom for his technical knowledge. And though Doom was able to defeat them, Otto, who was still following Doom, was fatally injured. As he died, Otto revealed that he was a member of a mystical order of monks in Tibet that would grant Doom access to forbidden knowledge. Forced to choose between Valeria and the chance to master the science of magic, he walked away from her, choosing to protect her from the danger caused by his ambitions. While traveling through Tibet, he stopped to visit the mystic known as the Aged Genghis, only to attack him when the Genghis described his scar as minor. The next morning, the Genghis was found by a more friendly visitor, Dr. Stephen Strange, who had just finished his magical studies with his master, the Ancient One, and would go on to become a powerful rival to Doom in years to come. Doom found the Order of Tibetan monks, who taught him more magical secrets and eventually made him their master. After using his technical skills to build a TV, Doom learned that Vladimir Fortunov had ascended to the throne of Latveria. He also learned that Reed Richards was being hailed as one of the world's premier scientific minds. Doom became convinced that Richards must have been working for the military to sabotage his work, fueling his hatred even further. As Doom studied, he continued to have nightmares about Mephisto and became convinced that the demon was filling his body with emotions to weaken him. So, he resolved he would not be like other men. He would have no emotion, no pain, and no warmth would affect him again. The monks constructed a suit of armor like none ever worn by mortal man. However, the mask took longer to finish, and an impatient Doom ordered the monks to place it on his face before it was cooled. The red-hot mask further scarred Doom's face, but he didn't care, as he already considered his face destroyed. Doom declared, "Never again will mortal eyes gaze upon Victor Von Doom, for now there is only Dr. Doom." Doom and one of the monks traveled back to Latveria, where he reconnected with Boris and the members of his tribe. As he marshaled his forces to attack the capital, Valeria returned. But she found him a changed man, even more driven than before. She tried to dissuade him from his plans, saying that he hadn't gained power, but just built better walls between himself and the world. But after smuggling Valeria out of the country for her safety, Doom attacked the military, leading a revolt of the people against Fortunov. When the king refused Doom's call for surrender, Doom led a march on the capital, personally flying into Fortunov's cathedral and strangling him. Doom took the throne, hailed as a liberator by the people of Latveria. Doom had finally avenged the tragedy of his parents' deaths. And yet, Doom knew that his mother's soul was still trapped in hell. He soon summoned Mephisto to bargain for her freedom, and the demon agreed to a yearly contest to decide the fate of the soul of Cynthia Von Doom. A battle that Doom would continue to fight for years to come. But in the meantime, Doom turned his attention back to Reed Richards, who had gone on to lead the team, the Fantastic Four. Doom soon battled them, using his time machine to send them back in time to steal Blackbeard's treasure chest, which contained Merlin's mystical gems. And while the Fantastic Four were able to return with the chest, it turned out to be empty. And Doom turned out to be a Doombot. The real Doom escaped, and Reed said they'd devote their lives to tracking him down. A promise that would prove to be entirely accurate, as Doom would spend decades battling the Fantastic Four, always trying to prove his superiority to Reed. But while Reed would prove to be Doom's longest-lasting foe, as seen in our Marvel Recap Fantastic Four video, Doom's ambitions were far too large to have only one nemesis. Who else would earn the wrath of Doom? While Dr. Doom believes he has no equal, something he's shouted out loud on multiple occasions, some of Earth's mightiest and most intelligent warriors have proven somewhat difficult for Doom to truly defeat. These mighty warriors have earned Doom's respect, although that hasn't stopped him from betraying them whenever it was necessary or amusing. One of these sparring partners is Namor, the mighty Submariner and the Prince of Atlantis, who has been both ally and enemy to the Fantastic Four since their earliest days. That has led to a complicated relationship with Doom, and over the years, the two have fought beside each other, fought against each other, betrayed each other, and even developed a grudging friendship, which makes sense as they share many similarities. They're both rulers of their respective kingdoms, have massive egos, and have been known to talk about themselves in the third person. We saw those similarities when they first met in 1962's The Fantastic Four, number 6. Doom approached Namor, presenting himself as an ally who shared Namor's ambition to achieve the punishment and total defeat of the Fantastic Four, and then of all mankind. Back at Namor's sweet undersea villa, Doom goaded him into seeking revenge against the surface world for the destruction of Atlantis, which Namor believed destroyed at the time. And while Namor refused to harm the Fantastic Four's Sue Storm, he agreed to aid Doom in defeating the rest of them. While Namor fought the Four at their Baxter Building headquarters, Doom shot the Baxter Building into space. And as Doom watched from his nearby spaceship, he revealed that Namor also stood in the way of Doom's ambition to rule the world. But now he was as helpless as the rest of them. But Doom didn't anticipate that Namor would join forces with his foes, using the Baxter Building's water tank to gather his strength and leap through space to Doom's spacecraft. As Namor broke his way in, Doom was forced to abandon ship, and he was left trapped on a nearby meteor. Namor used Doom's ship to return the Baxter Building to Earth. As for Doom, he would end up rescued by the alien race known as the Ovoids, who returned him to Earth. They also taught him their method for switching minds between bodies, which would go on to become an important weapon in Doom's arsenal. Doom and Namor's rematch would come in 1969's Submariner No. 20, with Namor being hunted through the streets of New York by the army and forced to seek sanctuary in the Latverian embassy. Doom greeted him, dismissing his betraying Namor as ancient history and undeserving of memory. Namor asked for water to restore his powers, but Doom first wanted to toast to an alliance to destroy the Fantastic Four. Namor refused, earning the wrath of Doom, who shut off all water to the embassy. Doom managed to capture Namor with heat rays, demanding that he pledge the armies of Atlantis to his service or die. Namor chose death, until he used the heat rays to set the embassy on fire. As Doom fled, a team of firefighters arrived to battle the blaze, and Namor used their water to restore his powers and flee. The next time they met, Namor proposed a new alliance, only to be rejected by Doom, who was convinced that one of them would inevitably betray the other. However, Doom had a solution: blackmail. For Namor was hiding a secret from the world, that much of Atlantis' population was lying comatose due to an accidental release of nerve gas from a sunken ship. Doom had heard rumors of the Atlantean disaster, and to avoid the world knowing that Atlantis was vulnerable, Namor agreed to help with Doom's plans. The pair ended up battling the Atlantean warlord Attuma, the Fantastic Four, and Iron Man. But the tables were turned when the Red Skull invaded Latveria, and Doom was shrunk to the size of a doll. Namor agreed to help Doom, only if he would help wake his people, and offer Doom accepted. With Namor's aid, Doom fought the Red Skull in space, destroying his space bike before leaving him stranded on the moon. Namor returned to Atlantis, which had been taken over by the Atlantean warlord Krang. While Namor took on Krang's army, Doom kept his word by sneaking in to wake Namor's people. As Namor regained his throne, Doom realized that while he had thought they were similar monarchs, Doom's power was derived from strength, while Namor's power stemmed from his people's love for him. And while that was not a strength Doom could understand, he could not deny its power. Through their time together, Doom and Namor had reached a level of mutual respect and friendship, a rare thing for both monarchs. They would both work together in the supervillain team, the Cabal. Although true to their origins, they would again have a brief falling out after Namor left to form his own Cabal, as Doom was insulted that Namor hadn't asked him to begin with. Or, as Doom put it, Doom is no man's second choice. T'Challa, the warrior known as the Black Panther, has battled Doom throughout the years, both as a warrior and as the king of the African nation of Wakanda. A scientific genius with mystical powers bestowed on him by a heart-shaped herb, T'Challa chose to use his intellect and abilities for the good of the Wakandan people and the world at large. That philosophy, the opposite of Doom's ambitions, has pitted the two sovereigns against each other and even brought their nations into war. The differences between the two were evident when they first met, not long after the nation revealed its scientific genius to the rest of the world. T'Challa returned from a trip abroad to find Doom on his throne, requesting an audience. T'Challa responded by blowing up the throne, only to discover that it was a Doom bot. T'Challa traveled to Latveria, where the real Doom suggested an alliance. But he was also curious. Why had T'Challa's ancestors never used their advanced technology to shape the planet's destiny? T'Challa responded that as mighty as the Wakandans are, they wouldn't have the power to reorder the entire world alone. And they had no desire to be an empire. T'Challa wanted Wakanda to help better the world, not conquer it. However, Doom held that minds such as theirs need not be fettered by the mewling moralities of lesser men. While the two monarchs parted ways without coming to blows, their opposing philosophies would make a future battle inevitable. That first shot came in 1971's Astonishing Tales #6, where Doom's obsession with vibranium, the mystical metal that was the source of Wakanda's advanced technology, spurred him to conquer the nation. His plan? To use the vibranium to build an army of rockets superior to any on Earth. He tunneled through the Earth until he was underneath Wakanda. However, a nearby resident noticed the vibrations and contacted Black Panther, who was in New York working with the Avengers. The king hurried back, only to discover that Doom had tunneled into a nearby volcano. There, Doom was able to goad T'Challa into a fistfight, only to blast him when his guard was down. Surprisingly, Doom found himself touched by T'Challa's nobility. And yet, who could compare with Doom, last of the true monarchs? It was his destiny to rule and conquer, to struggle till the very world was Doom's. Doom warned T'Challa not to try anything rash, for though he was inclined to treat him with the respect due to a fellow ruler, he was not greatly inclined. But for the Black Panther, defeat comes only in death. The Black Panther soon freed himself as Doom tunneled through the earth in search of more vibranium, even as it threatened to destroy his tunneling machine. T'Challa gave Doom an ultimatum. If Doom didn't halt his tunneler, he would send a stun blast into his country's vibranium, an act which would destroy all of Wakanda. Doom questioned whether the vibranium was valuable enough for T'Challa to threaten his people, but T'Challa argued that he knew that this wouldn't end with the theft of the vibranium. Doom would also enslave T'Challa's people to make sure the world didn't know of Doom's crimes, and T'Challa would never accept that. Doom relented, abandoning the vibranium and T'Challa, who was left unsure if he would have actually destroyed his country. As Doom left, he thought about how any one of his weapons could have disarmed T'Challa, but what would have been the point? He would have been useless as a pawn, but as an ally, that remained to be seen. But despite Doom's plans to convert T'Challa into an ally, Doom's desire for vibranium would eventually pit their two nations against each other in the conflict known as the Doom War. It all started when T'Challa turned down an offer from Namor to join the villainous group known as the Cabal. As T'Challa left to return to his country, he found himself confronted by another Cabal member, Doom. T'Challa and his bodyguards, the Dora Milaje, fought through Doom's forces to escape, as Doom promised to raise his beloved Wakanda and wipe his legacy from the minds of its people. To save one of his bodyguards, T'Challa threw himself in front of Doom's energy blasts, receiving massive wounds in the process. T'Challa was only able to escape after another of his bodyguards blew herself up to take out Doom, who emerged unscathed. Soon, T'Challa's ship crashed in Wakanda, where he was found by his queen, Ororo Monroe, aka Storm. While the advanced healing technology of Wakanda was able to save T'Challa, he was in no shape to continue as Black Panther. so his sister Shuri took on the mantle in his place. Meanwhile, Doom worked with the Desturi, a group of Wakanda separatists determined to destabilize the country. His plan? To distract Shuri and T'Challa through a civil war, which would allow him to finally steal Wakanda's vibranium. The plan worked. While Shuri, the Fantastic Four, and Namor battled a team of supervillains assembled by Doom, the Desturi seized control of Wakanda. Queen Aurora was arrested, and the rest of the royal family was forced to flee the capital, as Doom teleported to the capital to personally seize Wakanda's vibranium reserves. Doom struggled to unlock the vibranium vault, which was protected by a mystical barrier that would only open to someone with pure intentions. As Shuri returned to Wakanda, now joined by the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, Doom held Aurora hostage, demanding that T'Challa release the vibranium to him. T'Challa refused, but Doom let her go anyway. That's when T'Challa discovered that Doom had already raided the vault and plundered Wakanda's vibranium reserves. We soon learned that when Doom challenged the mystical lock, it transported him to the ancestral plane, where he was judged by the Panther god, Bast. Doom revealed that he was pursuing the vibranium because he'd been receiving visions of the end of the world. The only vision where it survived was a world that he dominated, which he called Doom World. Bast judged him as being truthful, allowing Doom to transport the vibranium back to Latveria. T'Challa sent the assembled heroes to Latveria, where they were forced to battle Doom's army of Doombots. Unable to outthink Doom's genius, T'Challa was forced to consider a crazy plan. That plan? To hire the insane mercenary Deadpool to take down Doom. While Deadpool couldn't enter Doom's lab, T'Challa soon figured a way to use shadow physics to teleport Deadpool through the vibranium to Doom. Doom was able to use his sorcery to charge the vibranium, drastically increasing his armor's power. T'Challa tried to convince Doom to stand down, arguing that they could find another way to avert the future he'd seen. But Doom refused, accusing T'Challa of squandering Wakanda's vibranium while also being too dependent on it. T'Challa agreed and used his shadow physics to deactivate all vibranium on Earth, rendering it useless. Doom argued that T'Challa had destroyed his own people, but Shuri asserted that he'd saved them. Shuri ended the war, warning Doom that if he ever set foot on Wakandan soil, she'd kill him. And with that, T'Challa and Shuri returned to Wakanda, where they began to rebuild their shattered country using the one resource that Doom didn't have: friends. While Dr. Doom may have faced off against Earth's mightiest heroes, his most legendary clashes would involve beings from other realms and dimensions. One of those was the demon Mephisto, as the death of Doom's mother had haunted him for years. And even in his youth, he'd vowed to one day use his magic to save her soul from the eternal torment in Mephisto's domain. As he grew up, he was plagued by nightmares of her suffering, although he never knew if they were created by Mephisto or by his own frustration over not being able to save her. After conquering Latveria, he entered into a contest with Mephisto, who, you may recall, challenged him to battle once a year for her soul every Midsummer's Eve. But their greatest battle came years later in the graphic novel Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom: Triumph and Torment. It started when the aged Genghis summoned the world's greatest sorcerers to compete to determine Earth's Sorcerer Supreme. And while Dr. Stephen Strange was already considered by most to be the Sorcerer Supreme, he agreed to compete. The final competitor was Doom, who hailed the aged Genghis, claiming that since their last encounter, he had learned respect for certain protocols, if not for the men that require them. The Genghis explained the competition, spurred on by the powerful extra-dimensional entities known as the Vishanti. However, one of the contestants protested that Doom had no right to compete, as he used science to work his wiles. Doom responded by shutting down his armor's offensive weapon systems and force fields, promising not to use them. The assembled sorcerers would have to free the Genghis from a crystal prison while dodging mystical bolts that turned the competitors into mystical zombies. While the other sorcerers soon fell, Doom used his armor's computer to study their approaches to mystical combat, and soon Doom and Strange were the only two competitors left. Doom used his new knowledge to challenge Strange, only to wind up imprisoned by Strange's magic. Strange won the competition, and the Vishanti officially declared him the Sorcerer Supreme. But since Doom survived the competition without falling to the power of the crystal, Strange owed him a boon. Strange refused to advance Doom in his plans of conquest, but Doom said that he had no need to employ mysticism in matters of state. However, he would ask for his help in freeing his mother's soul from an infernal netherworld. Was the suffering of one woman's immortal soul beneath the notice of the Sorcerer Supreme? And with that, Strange agreed. The pair traveled to Latveria, where Strange witnessed the reverence the people had for Doom. Later, Strange marveled at Cynthia Von Doom's mystical knowledge. Doom revealed that all he remembered of his mother was her face, her smile, her touch. He was very young when his mother died, but he had come to know her from her diary and the stories told by his father and Boris. He had spent all of his adult life seeking a way to free his mother from damnation, struggling year after year to no avail. This time would be different. Strange was puzzled. Why hadn't Doom asked for his help before? Doom's response? While he would bear any ordeal, Dr. Doom does not beg. Strange worked with Doom, training him further in the ways of the mystic arts, and Doom boosted his armor's technology to surpass Strange's mystical might. They descended into hell, where they were confronted by an army of demons and their lord, Mephisto. Dr. Strange found himself trapped in a distorted version of his origin story, where his teacher, the Ancient One, was dead. But before he could give in to despair, Strange was able to use his amulet, the Eye of Agamotto, to dispel the illusion and defeat the demon casting it. Meanwhile, Mephisto offered Doom the world, but the world was already Doom's for the taking. He needed no gifts from Mephisto. That's when Mephisto offered Doom what he wanted most, the soul of Cynthia Von Doom, for a price. That price was delivering Strange to Mephisto, who released Cynthia's soul into a new, stony body. But as happy as his mother was to see him, she was horrified to learn of Doom's betrayal, and that he had forfeited his soul in exchange for hers. While Doom would have sacrificed 1,000 souls to free her, she would not be a party to betrayal and rejected him, leaving Doom to weep at her stony feet. Thanks to a device that Doom gave him, Strange was able to break free of his bonds. The two battled Mephisto, but his sheer power forced them into the protection of Doom's force field with the statue of Cynthia. After convincing Doom to drop the force field, Strange used his powers to release the trapped soul of Cynthia Von Doom, unleashing a pure light that Mephisto could not withstand. Cynthia's rejection of Doom's supposed betrayal had redeemed her soul, and now she was lost to Mephisto forever. Unable to kill Strange and Doom without losing their souls as well, Mephisto sent them back to Earth. Once returned, Doom felt joy as he achieved that which he sought for years. His mother's soul was at last free, even though it was at the cost of her love. As Doom walked away, Strange realized that Doom could have betrayed him to Mephisto, but didn't. His actions gave his mother the chance to find her own redemption. Strange wondered if Doom could have planned this all along. Boris pointed out that Doom would want more than simply to rescue his mother. He would want to win free and clear, beholden to no one. His mother was free. He owed Strange nothing, and he could continue his dreams of conquest with his soul his own. But while Namor and T'Challa have tested Doom's might, intellect, and ability to rule, it was Tony Stark, also known as his armored alter ego Iron Man, who made Doom question his purpose in life. A former weapons manufacturer and one of the smartest men on Earth, Stark chose to use his scientific skills and inventions to help the world. A decision that initially made him Doom's enemy, but later inspired Doom to try to become a hero too. Their first major encounter came in 1981's Iron Man number 149, where we discovered that Doom was using time travel to learn sorcery from history's greatest magic wielders. Meanwhile, Iron Man witnessed Doom's agents stealing from a Stark Industries warehouse and traveled to Latveria to confront him. During a brief battle, the pair were sent through time, ending up in Camelot. While Iron Man allied himself with King Arthur, Doom sought out his half-sister, the villainous sorceress Morgan Le Fay. Doom asked to train with her, as he was still seeking the magical might that could free his mother from Mephisto. She agreed, if Doom would lead an army of the dead against Arthur, which led to a battle between Doom and Iron Man in the skies above Camelot. When Le Fay's army was defeated, Doom and Iron Man agreed to work together and combined their armor's technologies to return home. This adventure would be revisited in 1989's Iron Man number 250, where Iron Man and Doom were summoned to the year 2093 by Merlin. There, they found King Arthur had been reincarnated as a child and were tasked with defeating the current Iron Man, Tony's descendant, Andros Stark. While Tony was able to defeat Andros with armor upgraded by the mystical sword Excalibur, Doom encountered his future self, an aged cyborg who had replaced much of himself with his armor. Disgusted, Doom killed his future self, which came as no surprise to old Doom, as he'd done the same thing 100 years ago. And soon, they were both returned to the present day, where they went their separate ways. But their biggest interaction came after Doom was stripped of his godhood at the end of 2015's Secret Wars. The experience of being a god left Doom unfulfilled, although it did heal his facial scars. So, he attempted to redeem himself and become a force for good in the world, trying to ally himself with a skeptical Tony. After Tony was left in a coma during the second superhuman civil war, Doom saw a chance for redemption. He took an Iron Man armor and replaced Tony as a hero, becoming the infamous Iron Man. He also befriended Cambridge researcher Dr. Amara Pereira, who helped him in his cause. They soon became romantic, although one of their meetings was interrupted by the Fantastic Four's The Thing, who was unconvinced by Doom's attempt at heroism. But Doom was soon confronted by a face from his past, his mother, Cynthia Von Doom, who had seemingly been resurrected by an evil version of Mr. Fantastic himself, Reed Richards. Not to be confused with The Maker, who was an evil version of Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe. Doom confessed his plans to improve the world to his mother, planning to take down the evil organizations Hydra and AIM. But with the help of Doctor Strange, Doom soon realized who was behind his mother's resurrection: Mephisto. He was furious that Doom, who had caused so much strife in the world, would now attempt to be good. So he created a duplicate of her to taunt Doom. Doom and Strange worked together to defeat Mephisto. The Thing remained unconvinced though, so Doom teleported him to Amsterdam, where he gave him a vacation and an apartment. And as Doom proceeded to attack AIM, Dr. Pereira discovered that she was pregnant with Doom's child. But Doom's attempt at heroism soon started to collapse when Tony emerged from his coma. The former Cabal member, the Hood, began targeting Doom with a gang of supervillains, and Doom was rejected by Dr. Pereira, who didn't want to just be someone who kept healing Doom whenever he stumbled onto her doorstep. A dejected Doom visited his mother's grave, where he felt that he would never be seen as anything more than a monster, which he blamed on his mother's teachings. He went off to battle the Hood's crew, aided by an army of Doombots, and Tony soon showed up to help defeat the Hood too. The Hood devastated Doom's armor, and while Doom won, his face was scarred again. Afterwards, he returned to Latveria, injured and alone. He used his magic to rebuild Castle Doom, knowing that the world would never know or believe the sacrifices he had made for them. While Dr. Doom has fought many of his enemies one-on-one, he's not afraid to take on entire super teams all at once. For example, Doom's relationship with the mutant super team, the X-Men, has led to several memorable encounters and a surprising amount of flirting. They first crossed paths in 1981's X-Men number 145, after Doom captured the supervillain Arcade. After his assistant, Miss Locke, begged the X-Men to help free him, the team traveled to Latveria, where Storm encountered Doom, who flattered her and gave her a private dinner. The other X-Men tried infiltrating Doom's castle, but were soon captured and put into ingenious death traps. For Storm, Doom used a device to seal her inside a metal shell, which caused her claustrophobia to manifest through the violent weather inside. However, the X-Men were soon able to outthink their traps, and Wolverine was able to free Storm. Furious, she raged against Latveria, calling down hurricane-force winds that threatened to destroy Doom's castle. But she was eventually able to calm herself. Doom apologized and released Arcade to the X-Men's custody. Doom gallantly asked if he could start over with Storm, as he wished to know her better. Storm agreed to leave with a clean slate, saying the next move was Doom's, officially making this possibly the most awkward first date in Marvel history. The X-Men and Doom would encounter each other several times over the following decades, sometimes as adversaries, but occasionally as allies. In 1984's Beauty and the Beast miniseries, Beast and Dazzler found themselves investigating an underground mutant fighting ring, only to be forced to fight each other. They discovered that it was run by Latverian mutant Alexander Flynn, who claimed to be Doom's son and sought to depose him with the army of mutants he'd assembled. In the end, Beast and Dazzler were able to defeat Flynn's forces, and Doom appeared to declare that Flynn was not his son, calling him nothing but a contemptible, pitiful disgrace. During the 1987 miniseries Fantastic Four vs. the X-Men, Doom approached the X-Men with an offer to help heal their injured member, Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat. Pryde had become trapped in her intangible form when she was injured defending the Morlocks from the mutant assassins known as the Marauders during the Mutant Massacre. Doom offered to save her life, saying there would be no price, and the X-Men agreed to accept his help. Convinced that Doom couldn't be trusted, the Fantastic Four flew to Latveria to stop him. With the Fantastic Four's presence disrupting Doom's attempts to save Kitty, he ordered the X-Men to stop them from entering the castle. The two teams brawled outside, with the Thing bonking Wolverine unconscious, and Rogue absorbing the Human Torch's flame powers. That is, until Reed and Sue Richards' young and incredibly powerful son, Franklin Richards, rode in on Kitty's dragon companion, Lockheed, and managed to bring everyone to their senses. Watching from above, Doom considered letting Kitty die so he could blame it on Richards, but realized it would be a much better coup to cure her when Richards had failed to do so. And the whole thing turned out to be a plot by Doom to undermine Reed's confidence, as he was unable to tell if his concerns about Doom's plan was real or just his obsession with stopping Doom. Ultimately, Reed decided to put his trust in his loved ones and himself, and with that, he was able to save Kitty's life. Afterwards, Sue called out Doom for orchestrating this entire event, which Doom denied. But Sue didn't care, as they'd proved Doom wrong once again. And while Doom and the X-Men have not always been on the same side, it seemed that Doom had developed a respect for them, as we learned in 2024's X-Men number 28 that Doom had created his mutant team patterned after the X-Men. We learned that Doom had traveled across his country, rescuing Latverian mutants from captivity, training them, and assembling them into a team, much like Charles Xavier had with his X-Men. But Doom also believed that Xavier was destined to fail in bringing peace between mutants and non-mutants, and was not ready for a crown upon his head. Doom knew that his Latverian mutants were in danger and didn't let them join Xavier. And now they were alive when many of the X-Men weren't, due to a series of brutal assaults by the anti-mutant Orchis organization. Clearly, Doom respected Xavier's mission, but felt he hadn't gone far enough in his goals. And that's not something anyone can say about Doom. As Earth's mightiest heroes, it was inevitable that the Avengers would eventually clash with Doom, Earth's mightiest ruler, at least according to Doom. An early encounter was detailed in 1999's Avengers number 1 1/2, which took place just after the first issue of the Avengers back in 1963. In it, Doom was furious at the televised debut of the Avengers, who were soon called in by the Army's Major Bowman to help secure Doom's flying fortress. It had been captured by the military after Doom abandoned it in 1963's Fantastic Four number 17. When the Avengers flew inside, however, they were captured by Doom, who revealed he'd been Major Bowman all along. However, this early version of the team still featured the Hulk, who managed to take down Doom, who turned out to be a Doombot, because of course he was. And the Avengers were forced to flee the damaged fortress before it exploded. The Avengers fought a larger battle against Doom in 1977's supervillain team-up number 14. In it, mutant supremacist Magneto tried to ally himself with Doom to conquer the world, only for Doom to reveal that he was already going to conquer the world with his mind-controlling neurogas. After he brainwashed Magneto, Doom sent him to recruit the Avengers, who soon fell under his control too. Doom used the gas's power to take over the US government, although he was frustrated by the jabbering politicians he had to deal with, including the president. He also recruited a mind-controlled Hulk to be his bodyguard. That's when the LA super team, the Champions, arrived to challenge him, taking on the mind-controlled Avengers as Doom battled Magneto through the skies of Washington, D.C. The day was saved when the demonic Ghost Rider set Doom on fire, forcing him to remove his mask. He was soon overcome by the neurogas, and he was left immobile, waiting for commands from Doom that would never come, since he was Doom. But not all of the Avengers' struggles with Doom involved Doombots or mind control. For a more punch-focused fight, we can turn to 2008's Mighty Avengers number 8. After a satellite crashed to Earth, releasing an invasion of alien symbiotes, the Avengers were forced to battle them on the streets of New York. Iron Man soon discovered that the satellite was from Latveria, and the Avengers invaded the country in retaliation. During the battle, Iron Man and Doom grappled in Doom's lab, where the Avenger named the Sentry accidentally knocked them into Doom's time machine. Unable to use the methods that returned them from their previous time travel adventures, they were forced to break into the Baxter Building and use Reed Richards' time machine to return home. Afterwards, the Avengers were able to defeat Doom and take him into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. Not long after that, Doom would find himself involved in the Avengers' struggles with their former member, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Some time ago, Wanda had gone somewhat mad after her two children, Billy and Tommy, who had been created through her magic, disappeared. In her grief, she'd turned her powers against the Avengers, disassembling them in an attack that killed the current Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and destroyed her former husband, the Vision. Encouraged by her twin brother, Quicksilver, who was trying to protect her from the Avengers' retaliation, she'd later used her magic to change reality into one ruled by mutants in the House of M storyline. And when she returned the world to normal, she also cast a No More Mutants spell, which removed the powers of the vast majority of the mutant race in an effort to end mutant conflict. In the Avengers Children's Crusade series, the Young Avengers went looking for the Scarlet Witch, as two of them, Wiccan and Speed, were reincarnations of her lost children. They were soon joined by Magneto and her brother, Quicksilver, only to be opposed by the Avengers, who were looking to kill her to prevent her powers from growing out of control. Wanda's son, Wiccan, and the Young Avengers soon found Wanda in Latveria, where she was a guest of Doom, having lost all of her memories. Even more surprising, they were scheduled to be married the next day, and even Doom was surprised that he had found a new love after Valeria. When the Avengers arrived to confront Wanda, the Young Avengers brought her back to the day she disassembled the Avengers, where young Avenger Cassie Lang, aka Stature, was reunited with her father before he'd been killed. The act returned Wanda's memories, and she returned to the present with the Young Avengers and Scott Lang. There, she worked with Doom to restore the abilities of all the former mutants. The plan was to give the life force that powered her magic to Doom, allowing him to complete the spell. Wiccan argued that Doom wouldn't give up the powers afterwards, but agreed to help. The life force made Doom even more powerful. But as Wiccan predicted, Doom refused to give up his power, leading him to battle both the Avengers and Young Avengers. When he attacked Scott Lang, Stature retaliated. Meanwhile, the Scarlet Witch exposed Doom to even more of the life force power, which judged him unworthy, stripping him of his new might. A bitter Doom refused to admit that he had ever loved Wanda and fled. But while Wanda was restored to normal, Doom had killed Stature during the battle, leaving her newly revived father to mourn her. Doom's brief relationship with Wanda would prove awkward when he later came to the aid of the Avengers during Avengers and X-Men Axis. Doom showed up as part of a group of supervillains helping the Avengers fight Red Onslaught, a clone of Professor X possessed by the mind of Red Skull. Doom and Scarlet Witch combined their forces, casting a spell that inverted the moral compasses of every villain present for the battle against Red Onslaught. While under this spell, Doom later confessed to his goddaughter, Valeria Richards, who we'll discuss more in a later chapter, that he desired to redeem himself for the harm he'd caused in the world. He got his chance when the Scarlet Witch attacked Latveria, seeking revenge for his actions. Valeria and Doom managed to trap her in a device that sapped much of her powers, and she flew away, vowing to return one day for revenge. And we soon learned the true purpose of the machine as it resurrected Stature, reuniting her with her father and reversing one of the acts that Doom most regretted. And of course, the Avengers would go on to be one of the many groups that battled Doom when he took over the world during the recent One World Under Doom storyline. But more on that to come. While Doom has largely managed to resist the weakness of caring for others, the greatest threat to his solitude would turn out to be the child of his greatest enemies, Reed and Sue Richards' brilliant daughter, Valeria. The story of Doom and Valeria began when Sue discovered that her unborn baby was giving off massive amounts of energy, threatening both their lives. With Reed unable to help as he'd been trapped in the super prison The Vault, Sue's brother Johnny went to the only man with the genius to help, Doom. Doom agreed and safely delivered the girl, his only price for helping that he could name the child. He chose Valeria after his longtime love and declared that the baby would always be under his protection. And while that sounds sweet, we should point out that this was only a couple of months before he killed the original Valeria, which turned out to be part of a plan to attack Reed. Because while the baby Valeria was under his protection, her family wasn't. And Doom used his powers to send Valeria's brother, Franklin, to hell. If you haven't caught on by now, Doom is complicated. Despite Doom's various attacks and traps, Reed contacted Dr. Strange, who taught him enough magic to counter Doom's plan and send him to hell in Franklin's place. Doom later managed to escape by holding onto Thor's hammer when it passed through Hell during the Ragnarok storyline. And soon, he was back in control of Latveria. Time would pass before Doom and Valeria would encounter each other again, by which time Valeria was now a young girl and a super genius on par with her father. She was also a member of the Future Foundation, a group organized by Reed to train young minds to help shape the future. Doom, however, had lost his intelligence after he was kidnapped by the Intelligentsia, a group of supervillains who schemed to absorb the minds of the world's greatest geniuses. When Doom tried to absorb the mind of Bruce Banner for himself, Banner was able to outsmart him, leaving Doom's brain damaged. Not long before, Reed had been recruited by a group of alternate reality versions of himself known as the Council of Reeds, who worked to improve worlds throughout the multiverse. When they were attacked by the cosmic beings known as the Celestials, Reed left them to return to his universe, leaving the Council to be destroyed. But when Valeria heard about this, she became convinced her father had made a mistake, so she traveled to the one man who could help her, her Uncle Doom. Valeria was able to diagnose his brain damage and made him an offer. She would restore his mind if he would help her save the Council of Reeds. Doom agreed, and Valeria brought him to Latveria, where his ward, Kristoff, was ruling while pretending to be Doom. As Kristoff had been implanted with Doom's memories, the Future Foundation used Kristoff's brain to rebuild Doom's mind. But when Kristoff tried to relinquish the throne, Doom refused, saying that he'd promised Valeria to help her defeat Reed. Doom, along with the Future Foundation kids, Kristoff and Valeria's grandfather, the time-traveling Nathaniel Richards, traveled to the headquarters of the Council of Reeds, only to come face-to-face with the Celestials. Doom offered to sacrifice himself to hold off the Celestials, giving the rest of the team a chance to close the bridge before the Celestials could travel to Earth 616. But before he could, Valeria confessed that she knew that her actions would lead to Doom sacrificing himself for her. Feeling bad for her actions, she told him there was one thing he needed to know, which she whispered in his ear. Doom comforted her, saying that he would not die, for he was Doom, destroyer of worlds. And what gods dare stand against him? But to himself he admitted that, "I am a foolish, prideful man. Perhaps this is the day I pay too high a price for it." That price was his destruction at the hands of the Celestials, as he bought time for the Future Foundation team to escape. But while the world thought him dead, Doom survived. How? The secret Valeria told him was that she had left a gift for him in the Council of Reeds' interdimensional headquarters, which turned out to be a pair of infinity gauntlets and an army of lobotomized alternate versions of himself. Everything Doom would need to create a world he could rule. Or, as Doom put it, "Here, I can build." We would discover what that world was like in Fantastic Four number 611. Doom used the gauntlet and his sorcery to create a world of magic, only to discover he had made it in his own image. On his Doom world, Doom's creations, the High Priests of Science and the Professors of Magic, overthrew Doom and imprisoned him. An older, alternate version of Valeria recruited Reed to help Doom, aided by Reed's father, Nathaniel. As Doom and Valeria's recruits worked to escape Doom World, they were seemingly overcome, only to be saved by the legion of brain-damaged Dooms. Afterwards, Valeria and Doom reunited. Valeria tried to make him say thank you to her and Reed, but Doom just gave a curt, "Consider us even, Richards," before they returned to Earth 616. Doom's craving for power has grown steadily over the years, eventually reaching a desire to shape and bend entire worlds to his will. We first saw this need in 1966's Fantastic Four number 57, where he lured the Silver Surfer, who had been exiled to Earth by his master Galactus, to Latveria with a royal invitation. Doom pretended to be a peaceful scholar, only to steal the surfer's power cosmic. Doom surfed to America, where he used that power to attack the Fantastic Four, until Reed tricked him into the barrier that confined the surfer to Earth, which stripped Doom of his powers. But Doom had developed a taste for stealing other people's powers, and he would find even greater temptation from the nigh omnipotent cosmic race known as the Beyonders. Doom first encountered one of them during 1984's Secret Wars series, when he was one of the many heroes and villains summoned through time and space by the being known as the Beyonder. The Beyonder constructed a new planet, Battle World, and ordered the assembled beings to slay your enemies so that all your desires shall be yours. While the heroes and villains broke into opposing sides, only Doom tried to stop the conflict, telling the villains that they had a chance to reach out to a being to whom the gods are insects. When they refused, he struck out on his own, seeking to contact the Beyonder himself. To prevent this, Kang shot down Doom's jet. Doom survived thanks to his armor's force field, but was insulted when Captain America offered him a friendly hand, saying, "Doom needs the aid of no man." He rejected the pity he saw in Cap's eyes and declared that they would rue this moment. You, the others, the Beyonder, and the universe. Soon all will grovel at my feet. Doom soon took his revenge on Kang when he ordered the robotic supervillain Ultron to slay him. Later, when Galactus attempted to devour the energies of Battleworld, Doom used his technological genius to absorb the power cosmic from Galactus. The power surged through Doom, expanding his senses and his empathy, becoming suddenly aware of every secret desire of Battleworld's inhabitants. Armed with his new power, Doom debated his next plan. The Beyonder had asked them to slay everyone on the planet, and he had the power to do so. But what could the Beyonder give him that was not already within his power? And so, he set out to defeat the Beyonder and prove that there was no one greater than Doom. Doom attacked the Beyonder, only to realize that the power cosmic might not be enough to defeat him. But even then, Doom denied his fate, for Victor Von Doom must not die. Just as it seemed that Doom had fallen, the Beyonder analyzed Doom's history and body. Suddenly, Doom returned to the rest of the heroes and villains, declaring that the Beyonder was dead and the supreme being in the universe was Doom. This seemed to be a changed Doom, as he'd used his powers to heal his scarred face, and Professor X used his telepathic powers to confirm that this Doom meant them no harm. In fact, Doom used his new powers to help the supervillain known as the Molecule Man, removing the self-doubt and fear that was blocking him from fully using his powers. Doom summoned the rest of Earth's combatants on Battleworld to his tower, where he declared that he was all-powerful and had nothing to prove to lesser creatures. And while he could not undo all of the evil works of his life without unraveling the fabric of reality, he could set some things right, as he used his powers to bring Kang back to life. Doom confided in Captain America that he planned to use his newfound power to free his mother from her eternal torment. Keep in mind this story took place before he had freed her, as he'd lost all desire for conquest and transcended human desire. Despite Cap reporting this to the rest of the heroes, they still felt they couldn't trust Doom, and so they voted to fight him. Doom used his powers to destroy them. However, the Beyonder had survived, and using the body of the supervillain Claw, he had manipulated Doom into subconsciously reviving the heroes, who renewed their attack on Doom. Despite Doom's best efforts to kill Captain America, he was unable to do so, as his subconscious kept resurrecting him. During the madness, the Beyonder reclaimed his power before returning Doom to his normal, scarred form and sending him back to Earth. With the war over, the heroes and villains of Earth also found their ways back home. During the Secret Wars 2 storyline, the Beyonder would return and create a disco-haired body for himself so he could travel to Earth and learn more about humanity. The Beyonder soon found himself summoned by the magical powers of Doom, who was in the borrowed body of sporting goods salesman Norm MacArthur after his body was destroyed by Terrax. Doom planned to use the Beyonder's powers to restore his original body, only to be quickly overpowered. But before the Beyonder could kill Doom, Reed Richards pleaded for Doom's life. The Beyonder used his powers to create a duplicate of Doom's original body, transferred his mind into it, and sent him back in time, effectively restoring both Doom and MacArthur to normal. But the greatest power that Doom would ever wield came from the Beyonder's people, appropriately known as the Beyonders, or Ivory Kings. Intending to destroy the multiverse as part of a grand experiment, the Beyonders engineered the accident that created the matter-manipulating supervillain Owen Reese, aka the Molecule Man, way back in 1963's Fantastic Four number 20. They duplicated that accident in every other reality. When a Molecule Man's life ended, whatever reality he lived in also died. Becoming aware of the Beyonder's plan while investigating the deaths of universes, Doom and his reality's Molecule Man began traversing the multiverse to kill various Molecule Men in an attempt to foil the Beyonder's plan. However, when they would kill a Molecule Man, his universe would still die, causing the multiverse to contract. This contraction would cause alternate Earths to crash into each other, completely destroying both universes in what became known as incursions. Such an incursion threatened Doom's home reality, Reality 616, in 2013's New Avengers number 6, when the sky over Latveria was suddenly filled with an alternate Earth on a collision course with Earth 616. The secret super alliance, known as the Illuminati, stopped the incursion by destroying the alternate Earth. Doom soon uncovered the truth that his actions across the multiverse were causing the incursions and threatened to destroy every reality in the multiverse. Seeking to stop the Beyonder's plans, Doom set out with Doctor Strange and the Molecule Man to confront them. Their battle caused a massive fire that destroyed hundreds of thousands of realities, leaving less than 24 universes intact. Ultimately, Doom destroyed the Beyonders, stealing their insanely massive power and turning himself into an all-powerful god. However, the incursions continued until only 2 Earths remained. When they collided, Doom used his new powers to create a new world from the remains of numerous realities. Battle World. It was ruled by God Emperor Doom, who even used his powers to create a family with a version of Sue Storm as his consort, along with versions of Sue's children, Valeria and Franklin, who saw Doom as their father. He maintained his order through his private guard, the Thor Corps, and his right-hand enforcer, Sheriff Strange. But Doom's rule was soon challenged by the survivors from the Ultimate Universe, Reality 1610, and the main Marvel Universe, Reality 616. And when Strange aided them, Doom murdered him for his disobedience. Doom soon found himself battling a coalition of angry inhabitants, including the mad, death-obsessed Thanos, who Doom quickly dealt with. He encountered more of a challenge from Black Panther, who wielded the power of an infinity gauntlet against him. Meanwhile, Reed Richards and his Reality 1610 counterpart, the Maker, discovered that the Beyonder's power wasn't actually controlled by Doom, but by the Molecule Man. This led to a battle between Reed and Doom, where Reed succeeded in getting Doom to admit that Reed would have done better wielding the powers of a god. Molecule Man revoked Doom's powers and granted them to Reed, who used them to restore Reality 616 before setting off to rebuild the universe. Doom found himself back at his rebuilt castle, with his face restored by Reed, who had also urged him to find a new purpose. Despite this, Doom was unsettled. He'd had everything he'd ever wanted. What would Doom do now? Although Doom's previous campaigns have focused on ruling the universe or remaking it in his image, his latest scheme involved him simply ruling the world. It started in 2024's Blood Hunt miniseries, where an army of vampires conquered the Earth except for Latveria, which Doom managed to protect. When the Avengers tried to stop the vampires, they were forced to retreat when the group, known as the Blood Coven, took down the Asgardian god of thunder, Thor Odin's son. The vampire hunter Blade revealed that the threat was the Structure, a vampire cult that used the dark, extra-dimensional energy known as the Dark Force to blot out the sun, enabling vampires to walk freely at all times. And the cult's leader? Blade himself! Well, actually, it was Blade possessed by the spirit of the first of all vampires, Varney. Desperate, Doctor Strange and the interdimensional sorceress Clea turned to Doom for help, who was well aware of the threat of Varney. Doom revealed that in order to stop the Dark Force, they would have to call together a great assemblage of mages, using the students of Strange Academy, Doctor Strange's magical school. Oh, and Doom would also need to be Sorcerer Supreme. Varney's plans were opposed by the undead forces of the Egyptian god Khonshu, led by his champion, Moon Knight. They were soon joined by a resurrected Thor and the Avengers. Strange only agreed to Doom's request to be Sorcerer Supreme on the condition that once the world was saved, Doom would return the title to Strange. Doom gave his word, and Strange bestowed him the title and a piece of his soul. All hail the Sorcerer Supreme. No, all hail Doom. And while Varney was banished from Blade by his daughter, Bloodline, and Miles Morales, Doom was able to cast his spell to repel the Dark Force. Varney was defeated, and the heroes were able to bask in the restored sun. However, once Strange asked Doom to keep his word, Doom pointed out that the promise was to restore Strange's title and powers after he saved the world. But he had only just begun saving the world. And so, he revealed himself to the world as the Earth's new, superior Sorcerer Supreme. And also, Emperor of the World. That revelation brought readers into the One World Under Doom series, which saw the leaders of the world declare Sorcerer Supreme Doom Emperor of the World, turning every nation into a province of a new, united Latveria. Doom outlawed war and instituted both universal healthcare and free education, and swiftly took down anyone who moved against him. A coalition of heroes gathered to work against him, traveling to Latveria to gather proof that Doom was lying to the world about his intentions. While they found nothing, Doom was busy defeating Hydra with the help of Doom Dinosaur. Doom revealed that he'd also killed Baron Zemo and also the Red Skull, a problem that Earth's mightiest heroes had been failing to solve since World War II. But Doom did it in a day, and the world adored him for it. Someone else who adored him was Valeria Richards, who visited him to learn why he was doing this. Doom said the answer was simple. He sought glory. He'd accomplished what others had long said was impossible. His rule was based on one simple truth, that Doom was the only one qualified to unify the world. But while Valeria sought to understand Doom, the Fantastic Four attacked him at a United Nations event, only to find that the assembled delegates were there of their own free will. Doom further proved his superiority by doing the one thing that Reed had failed to do. Turn the Fantastic Four's thing, Ben Grimm, back into his human form. With the public increasingly supporting Doom's rule, the heroes were forced to bring in an unconventional group of allies, the supervillain team known as the Masters of Evil. The combined forces of heroes and villains ambushed Doom in Latveria, while their mystical members investigated world leaders for possible mind control. But they quickly discovered that Doom hadn't established his peace through mystical coercion, but through negotiation and leadership. But with Doom focused on ruling the world, he'd neglected his duties as Sorcerer Supreme. And soon, the interdimensional conqueror Dormammu took this opportunity to invade the Earth, leading to an epic battle throughout Manhattan. While Doom seemed to be overwhelmed by Dormammu's forces, he used his mystic amulet, the Eye of Agamotto, and various spells to simulate the powers of the countless foes he'd battled through the years, like the Human Torch's Flame On, and ending with the snikt of Wolverine's claws. Just as it seemed Doom had won, he lost the Eye of Agamotto. Dormammu took the chance to strip him of his armor, shattering his bones before feeding him to his demons. But Doom was not so easily thwarted and returned to the fight. For Doom is not the magic, and Doom is not the name, and Doom never fails. With his last ounce of strength, Doom completed a spell to summon the Avengers to his side. With their help, Doom used his magic to heal himself and banish Dormammu back to his home, the Dark Dimension. Later, while Reed challenged Emperor Doom to a televised debate over his rule, the assembled heroes traveled to Latveria, looking to finally find proof of Doom's deception. As Doom mocked Reed for never actually changing the world to make it better, the heroes discovered that Doom had constructed a magical prison in the heart of Latveria. Inside it, the heroes found the citizens of Latveria, imprisoned by Doom. When Reed revealed this to the world, Doom argued that they were volunteers, loyalists who had asked to sacrifice themselves for the good of everyone else. But Reed was horrified to find that there were children in there, and that Doom was using their life force to power his magic. As the world discovered Doom's secret, the heroes and villains assembled for one last battle against him. Doom found himself facing Reed, who had studied enough magic to replicate Doom's skills, taking the name of the Scientist Supreme. Meanwhile, Valeria used her scientific genius to contact Doom through his armor. And while Doom's physical form continued to fight, he met with Valeria on the astral plane. She pleaded with Doom to stop, but Doom refused, saying that he would ensure that what happened that day would happen forever and could never be changed. Back in the battle, Doom used his powers to remove the X-Men's powers, mimicking what the Scarlet Witch had done on M-Day with the No More Mutants spell. Susan Richards used her powers to bend the energy powers of all the heroes into Beta Ray Bill's hammer Stormbreaker. That's when the Thing returned to wield it, as the Fantastic Four had traveled to the Big Bang to restore him to his rocky form. But despite the Thing's clobbering, Doom was unharmed. He used his magic to create this moment into a fixed moment in time, ensuring that the heroes could never take this victory from him as he used his mystical armor to impale the heroes. But as he reassembled his armor, gloating as he did so, he saw that there had been one unexpected casualty of his armor's shards: Valeria Richards. Once again, Doom had thwarted himself. Only this time, he'd allowed his ambitions to take the life of the one person he most treasured in the world. Doom tried to revive her, even appealing to the interdimensional beings, the Vishanti, and summoning the living tribunal. Doom offered the tribunal anything it desired if he would revive Valeria. When the tribunal countered that Doom had nothing to offer, Doom demanded to be fully seen. With that, the living tribunal looked into Doom's soul, seeing his rage, guilt, regret, and wild ambition. But he also saw something that no one had seen in Doom before: love. They saw that Doom had truly come for Valeria, not himself, and rewarded him for that. Valeria was reborn, And while she was concerned that there would be a cost for her resurrection, Doom assured her that only he would deal with the consequences. After Valeria returned to her family, Doom visited Reed Richards in his lab to inform his nemesis that Doom was dying. Reed refused to save him as he was unable to forgive him for his actions. But Doom didn't want saving. He'd traded his life, his titles, his planet, and his soul for Valeria. If she was well, that sacrifice was worth it. Doom's final act was to ask Reed to take care of his world as he crumbled to dust. All that was left behind was his mask, and inside all of it was the last will of Victor Von Doom. But is Doom truly gone for good? It seems unlikely, as Doom has always returned before. And the one thing we always know about Doom is that he has a plan. As for Victor Von Doom's debut in the MCU, the countdown to Marvel Studios' Avengers Doomsday is on. Only in theaters, December 18th, 2026. And that is our abridged summary of Dr. Doom. Want to learn more? Sign up for Marvel Unlimited, where you can find all of Doom's decades of history. And if you're curious, here's a list of all the comics we referenced in this video. This has been Marvel Recap Dr. Doom.